How do you explain the unexplainable? Producer Kimberly Clarke has captured stories of modern day miracles, but this time she's stepping into the spotlight with her own. And pastors Brian and Dionne Edmonds of Macedonia Church in Pittsburgh are here in the studio to share their powerful story and their vision for the church. It's going to be a good one. Let's go. Welcome to Unscripted Faith. Listen, today I am amped and I'm already going to apologize to you because I'm on about a level 10. So maybe get your coffee, settle in, because I've got my dear friends, Reverend Dionne and Brian in the house today. And we've got a phenomenal guest that is exploring miracles. Listen, this first guest is the creator and producer of a new 8-episode series hosted by Bear Grylls, exploring the unexplained healings and documented miracles. But Kimberly Clarke is no stranger to miracles in her own life. So let's hop into that. Kimberly, welcome to Unscripted Faith.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Listen, I am thoroughly enjoying Miracles from Angel Studio Girl that you are producing and running with. It is so powerful to hear these stories of people who are experiencing the truly impossible in this realm, but truly natural for our God. So take us first into your own experience with the miraculous.
I would love to. So I had this 20-year back injury. And, I grew up in the church and my grandfather was a pastor, but I personally was unfamiliar with miracles. I had never experienced a miracle. I had never met anyone who told me about a miracle. So I went to hear someone speak. Her name's Joanne Moody. She's actually a partner in Miracle. And listen to her story, her testimony. I just got invited kind of randomly by a person who really didn't even know me that well. She's like, I just feel like the Lord wanted you should hear this story. So I go. Fast forward, the Lord heals my back, heals my heart. Like the story, I could go on forever, but focusing on the physical healing that happened to me that day, everything changed. And I just kept saying, how did I not know? How did I not know that this was happening? And I started this crazy adventure. The Lord gave me Jeremiah 33:3. So I started this, hey, God, I'm just going to ask you a million questions and you promise you're going to answer them. All these things that I couldn't possibly know on my own. And that's what happened. It just turned into this journey of research and meeting people. And as soon as I started, there were stories everywhere. Everywhere.
So Kimberly, after this 20-year injury, I mean, you're in pain, you're getting shots in your back and everything else. In this one moment at a conference, you're miraculously healed?
Yes. So I'm at this little gathering. It was like these two churches kind of had this woman come and speak, because this is the wild story. Oh, there's my little dog. Sorry. So she had prayed for the hostess, and the hostess of this event had not been able to get pregnant for 8 years, and then had a prayer and then got pregnant like days later. So this person wanted to share her testimony and invited people to come and meet Joanne. Her name is Joanne Moody, and hear this story of her own testimony. So I was just there to kind of hear this story. I didn't even know that a healing was available.
So you hear the story. Did somebody lay hands on you and pray, or what happened?
Yes, Joanne walked up to me after this. I listened to her story. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And she's so much fun. And she's just talking about miracles like they're normal. I was just captivated. And she walked over to me and she said, the Lord highlighted you to me, and I would love to pray for you. And I said, oh, that would be amazing. And she's praying for me. And the back pain, I just had been told I'd gotten an MRI, I'd been getting shots, and they had said, hey, you have, your cartilage between your L4, L5. There's really nothing we can do. I mean, other than surgery, this is really and I was very hopeless about my back, because I'd gone to every kind of physical therapy and tried everything. But I really wasn't even thinking about my back whenever the Lord healed me. She kind of went after some heart healing and just she's just praying this beautiful prayer. And then all of a sudden my pain leaves. And I said, oh gosh. And I was like, because again, I have no bandwidth for this, right? I don't know about this. And then she says, and then she put her hand on my back, and I felt this electricity go through me. And I just felt this tangible love of the Lord cover me head to toe. I literally couldn't move. Just being transparent, I literally could not move under the power of the Lord. And I had that electricity kind of shooting through me for about 2 weeks. And I was just on this, like, I don't even know if I slept, to be honest, because I was so undone by what had happened.
Oh
And
my
yeah, it was
gosh.
amazing.
Literally, like, it is so powerful. And I love that in that moment, you weren't even thinking about your back injury. You're just like, okay, pray for me. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And you're feeling like, oh, this is beautiful. But then all of a sudden, the Lord just like, bam, let me go after that physical thing too. Let's
Yeah, he just
go.
got it. And he got my attention because I also didn't know about, prophetic words, words of knowledge. I didn't know anything. I literally had been in church all my life. I had no idea that this was all a part of church. And so he caught my attention right away because when she started praying for me, she prophesied something over my life that only the Lord would have possibly known. So I'm already like, whoa, what's happening? And then, so it was like I say, it's like it was the quick fix of like fast forward me into a whole nother world with the Lord. I literally have a necklace that has my children's birth date and then April 6, 2018.
Let's go, because it was that much of a marker for your life.
Yes.
It literally changed everything. So share with me, Kim, kind of the journey that you went on after this miraculous moment with the Lord that has led you to where you are today.
So I kept saying, how did I not know? I just couldn't believe. I had traveled the world. The Lord had a beautiful big life. And I thought of all the people all over. No one had mentioned this to me. And so I just started researching and watching, stuff on YouTube. I started going to conferences where, I started running with Joanne. I was like, what, can I just go with you wherever you, because they were talking so normal. They'd be like, oh, remember the time that you prayed for the blind person? And I was like, wait, what? Like this was normal dialogue in this group of people. Like they were, oh yeah, remember, it's just very normal miracles. And so she's like, yeah, come with me. So I started going with her to conferences. I signed up for a school that she had that just like taught you, like literally shared the stories of what was going on, tons of books, wrote tons of papers about those books. And so I just immersed myself and I partnered with Global Medical Research Institute because this is how casual these things happen. I'm at a conference and somebody goes, oh, hey, did you meet Dr. Josh Brown? He was healed of an inoperable brain tumor and he has an institute that researches miracles. And the person he prayed for was blind. I was like, what? So I said, you got to find this guy. Like I literally was a stalker of trying to find this man at this conference of like 7,000 people. And so somebody helped me find him. And then he just became like, this life force for me. And he and his wife, she got her BA, MA, and PhD from Harvard. Her PhD's in theology. And they had written all these papers that were peer reviewed in medical journals. And she has a book published by Harvard that's called Testing Prayer. And so I just started like just a sponge of knowledge. And they really catapulted me into knowing that people need to know about this. We have to share like what we know.
Absolutely. We have to share. The God who parts the Red Sea is still parting Red Seas for me and around me. And when we embrace him, when we experience him, it changes everything. It goes from, this head knowledge to an experiential journey. And so let me ask you, now you're making this series of shows for Angel Studios, Miracles, which is phenomenal. Were you a producer prior to this, or is that also a miracle in and of itself?
That's a miracle. I'm telling you, the Lord gave me this vision to do this show. And in the middle of the night, literally, I created these vision boards of like the Lord was downloading all these things to me. And I had zero experience. And I really do think now that it's been such a long journey of like 6 years of working on this. Really the first were just research and expanding my knowledge and everything. But I think if I would have known how hard it would be, like maybe I would have been like, oh, that's, because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. And that innocence and that childlike faith really just let me just go on a journey with the Lord versus like understanding, oh, you're supposed to do it this way. And I made a ton of mistakes. And the Lord was kind enough to correct them and clean up my messes and get me on the right path. And so, yeah, I had no experience at all. But we decided like whenever the Lord initially gave me this idea, he told me that music would be a huge part of it, that the worship. And for me, worship is a conduit to heaven. Like I always say that the seasons of my life are marked by my playlists, right? Like those contending or when I'm thankful, like it's all, I could look at my Spotify. Oh yeah, I remember. And so that was really important to me.
Yeah.
And important to our team too. Everyone on my team loves worship. And so we created music along with this.
And it is true. The music is a powerful part of this. I mean, you have Phil Wickham, you have Rita Springer. I mean, and these songs are like, they envelop you, and they really do tell a story of basically look around and see the proof of Jesus. And he wants to do the miraculous for you today. You know?
Yes. We wanted people to experience, because you're watching this episode. So you're watching a 30-minute episode of God, your mind is blown, right? Like, oh, wow, I just saw this crazy miracle. And then just giving people that little 3.5 minutes at the end to just kind of sit in that space, with beautiful music written for that episode, like just to let people kind of process for a little bit is what we really were hoping. And then, some people might be more interested in music. So we wanted to have an opportunity for God to touch them through music, through film, through like whatever happens, we just want to, all the media forms.
Oh my gosh. Well, girl, you are doing it. Whether you knew what you were going to be doing or not, the Lord knew. And we are so thankful you are highlighting this miracles, all these unprecedented things that are happening, so we can take it in and know that, anything is possible with Christ Jesus. Thank you for being with us today, Kimberly, and we pray blessings over this series and everything that you put your hand into.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such an honor.
Such a pleasure. Woo! Listen, I love the miraculous. It's evidence of our God at work today. He's not going anywhere, friends. And also, I love the local church. My next guests are the power couple of Macedonia Church of Pittsburgh. Pastor Brian and Pastor Dionne Edmonds are in the house, here in the studio. And they're going to share their life mission and story right after this break. Stay with us.
Celebrate the land of promise with this special 16-month Israel calendar when you give to Cornerstone Television this month. Featuring breathtaking photography of Israel's ancient sites and landscapes, each month highlights a powerful biblical theme and verse, reminding us that God's covenant still stands. Perfect for home, office, or gifting, this calendar is both inspirational and educational, connecting faith, history, and heritage in every turn of the page. This 16-month Jewish Christian calendar runs from September 2025 through December 2026, with each month bringing Israel's sacred beauty to life. Request your copy today as our thank you gift when you give to CTVN, your home for Christian television. To give, call 888-665-4483 or go to ctvn.org/donate. Your partnership enables us to broadcast Bible-based programs all over the world 24/7 so that all may hear who Jesus is. Thank you for giving.
As a pastor, it's very, very important that I encourage people to be a part of a local church fellowship. There's a story in the scriptures where Jesus talked about the 99 and he left the 99 to go after the one. The devil always seeks to isolate so he can annihilate. But when you come together in the local church body, Jesus is so confident in the fellowship amongst the saints that he's willing to leave them because he knows they can take care of themselves. This is the reason why. Number one, you need fellowship. Number two, where two or more are gathered, there he'll be in the midst. When you are gathered with the local church body, his presence comes down. One puts 1,000, but two puts 10,000 to flight. When you are a part of a local church fellowship, everything in your life multiplies and exponentially grows. Get into a local church body.
Welcome back to Unscripted Faith. Working in the heart of Pittsburgh since 2007, Pastors Brian and Dionne Edmonds are here in the house. They're going to share their heart for the church and this region. You too. Thank you so much for being on Unscripted Faith.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Listen, I'm all jazzed up. I'm pumped. Reverend Dionne and I, we're friends here, so we're just going to chop it up with Pastor Brian and Pastor Dionne. Share with me a little bit, because we were talking, and you guys have such a beautiful heart for the global church and, of course, the local church.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we're seeing in this hour you were sharing is really the significance of relationship with Jesus, that simplicity.
Yeah.
Especially for folks in ministry.
Yeah.
Because they're busy doing, and we get busy in the world and trying to see something happen out here.
Yep.
But it goes back to relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Share with me a little bit more of what the Lord has been showing you concerning that.
Yeah. And this has just, I think, been as a result of what we've been seeing in the church, that we serve a God that has always, from the beginning of time, been in pursuit of us, in pursuit of relationship with us. And the whole reason that God sent his son Jesus was to restore us back to relationship with him.
Yes.
But somewhere along the line, I think we got caught up in doing more for God than actually being with God.
Come on.
And God's heart is to be with us, right? While I think the things that we do for God are important, but if we're doing them and forsaking the relationship with him, then we're missing the whole point of what we're doing. And I think for us even in this season, like, we've seen this influx of young people come into the church that are really just hungry, that are searching and want answers and have a lot of questions. And they really want to know, like, who is this God that we keep hearing about? Like, we know that, there is story in Scripture of the way that God has changed lives and done the miraculous, but how can we actually get to know him for ourselves? And it's through relationship. It's
That
through
is
relationship.
so good. And it is the difference between really, like, functioning. I always go back to that story with the sons of thunder, and they reject Jesus, and he said that they're like, call down fire. Should we call down fire, God, and destroy them? And Jesus like, you don't know what manner of spirit you're of. And I really feel like when you're saying that, like, so much of what's happening even in the world and in the church right now, we don't know what manner of spirit we're of, because we've walked away from that relationship with God unknowingly. We think, oh, we're doing all the things, but we're not in step with the Father.
So part of it, I think, Angela, first of all, thank you for having us. We hyped to be on the show. But part of it, I think, with this influx of young adults and others who are hungry is they're realizing that the ways of the world don't work. Right? So they're realizing, like, my relationships are falling apart, my finances are falling apart, my family is a mess. I need to seek something different. And so it engenders this hunger for, okay, now, who is this God, right? And so I think it's incumbent on us, right, who are seeking to be leaders. We can't just demonstrate, the teaching, but we have to demonstrate the living, right? So not only do you need a relationship with God, but I need one, right? Because I cannot rightly work for God until I learn how to rest in God.
Come on, say that again. Say that again.
Yeah, indeed. So in our time, we have been really leaning into sabbatical for a month, a year for the last few years, right? And so what we've learned is, of course, as leaders, we're on the brink, on the verge of breakdown and burnout ourselves, because we love people, right? We love people. We love seeing God work. We love seeing miracles, as you just talked about, right? But because of that, we can be run down unless we learn how to pour from a full cup rather than an empty cup. So again, I can't learn how to rightly work for God until I learn how to rest in God.
Come on. I mean, that right there in and of itself, I think produces so much fruit in our lives. And I really think, and I love that you all are tearing it up at Macedonia. Okay, let's just say
God
is. But y'all are doing it. You're being obedient to his voice. You're following his commands. Like, you're going after this thing with the Lord, But I think it's so important, because I think a lot of people fail to realize, like pastors, they think, oh, y'all got to eat. Oh, you show up on a Sunday and you're on that platform, and oh, look at what y'all. And they don't have any idea of what you all are going through, and I say it all the time. Like, I know probably many Fridays you've been at a house ushering a loved one into glory, then sitting until 4:30 in the morning with their family, helping them to mourn, then Saturday preparing your message again, and then Sunday morning speaking 3 times or whatever, going back to the family to prepare the funeral arrangements. So when you run at a pace like that, and I know y'all are running. Like, really, for real, let's be real. Is there a way to find balance? How How do you find balance running the ministry, doing the church things, raising a baby, you know, living? Be real.
I was going to say,
Go ahead.
let me go ahead and dispel the myth right
Yes.
now. There is no such thing
Sure
as
isn't.
balance.
Sure isn't.
There is no such thing as balance. And I think for so long, I was chasing that for a long time. And part of what I have found, though, Angela, is that God's desire for us is to rest in Him.
Come on.
And we can experience rest in Him in the midst of chaos and in the midst of stressful seasons. But it goes back to what we were just talking about. It goes back to relationship and really prioritizing relationship. So for me, one of the things that is primary for me is I have to create space in my day to sit at His feet.
That's it.
Okay, come
Like,
on.
that's a non-negotiable
Yes.
for me. I have to create space in my day to sit at His feet. And God had to get me to a place of like, that moving from me feeling like I had to say something like as soon as I sat down in my closet, that's where I like to pray, I just have to like run off the list of all the things that are on my mind, but really has shifted me to a place of just sit at my feet and be still in my presence. And allow me to speak to you.
Yes.
And as I speak, allow me to actually uncover like what's going on in your heart. Because you are so busy that you aren't aware of what's going on in your heart. And it's in those moments, Angela, that God will show me you're overwhelmed. But you're overwhelmed, Dionne, because you're doing all these different things that are good, but aren't necessarily the God thing, like what I'm calling you to in this moment. They're good things, but it's not the thing for this moment. So allow me to reveal what that is. Yeah.
Wow, that is a good distinguisher. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yeah, no, I was just going to lift up that, you know, it's huge that Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 12 that we're the body, right?
Yep.
And so part of being able to do all that God has called us to do is recognizing that we aren't called to do it by ourselves,
Exactly.
right? So when God says it's not good for man to be alone, He's not just talking about marriage and romantic relationship. He's talking about community, right? And so again, you know, I got some community with my bride here, right?
Yes,
You know,
you do.
I
Yes,
got
you
some
do.
great community right here. But also, you know, just in the roles of pastoral leadership, really making sure that we're raising up people who also know how to sit at His feet. So then, because of the grace He pours out on all of us, we can share the load. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say that, I instantly think of Mary and Martha.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That's the distinguisher. Martha was doing a whole lot.
All
the stuff.
the most.
The most,
The most.
the
Right.
actual most,
Right,
okay?
right.
And Jesus said, well, Mary, who's doing nothing that
Right.
Martha was aggravated with, she's doing the thing.
Yep.
The best
She's
thing.
doing
The best thing, the
Yep.
only thing.
Yep, exactly.
That is so good.
And look, so I was gonna say, you know, for a long time, I would like look down at Martha because I'm like, yeah, she is. She's doing the most.
Right.
But how many times have I been Martha?
Doing the most.
Girl,
Doing
yes.
the most. Like
Yes.
doing the most, thinking that everything
Yes.
I was doing for God was so important that I didn't have time to sit at His feet.
Right.
Tell that.
Like, I
Literally.
felt like, okay, me writing this sermon or me, you know, preparing this lesson for this women's gathering or whatever is way more important. So I don't have time to sit at His feet. And part of what I had to learn is that really everything flows from sitting at His feet.
Everything.
Come on.
Everything.
Come on.
Everything. And so if you don't prioritize that, you are going to be empty. You are going to be running on fumes
Yes.
because everything flows from being at His feet. Yeah.
Come on, I mean, it's the truth. And it's so funny, even the rationale that we're like, oh, we don't have time for that.
Right.
It's the one thing. It's the one thing, the only thing.
Yes.
And Pastor Brian, you've been saying a lot about discipling others into that understanding.
Yeah.
What does that look like within this season of life?
Yeah, so it's critical, right? Because one of the words that the Lord has given me is the word legacy, right? And not just, oh, I want people to remember me, but really, I want people to remember Him and the work that He's doing in us.
Yeah.
And the only way that happens is if we, like Paul said to Timothy, can say, hey, the things you heard me say in the presence of others, I need you to entrust to faithful men who will do the same, right? And so people are also asking that question, well, how do I sit at his feet? What does that look like? And so we've then got to invite people into our lives, into our home, into our schedule, and say, you know what? This is what it looks like for us with 3 kids to get up a little earlier and make time to sit at his feet. This is what it looks like, you know, while I'm sitting outside of dance practice, to say, God, you're giving me 20 minutes while I'm waiting on pickup, right?
Yes.
And so while I could scroll on Instagram, and while I could watch something on ESPN, maybe this is a moment where you want me to write down in my journal what you're speaking to my heart. And so trying to help others do that as God is trying to help me do it.
Yes.
That's good.
Come on. I mean, literally those moments at dance, on the ball field, while we're waiting in line to pick up, you know, while we've got our grandbabies trying, wherever you are, there's always time to sit at his feet. And it doesn't have to be in our closet. Sitting right there on the bleacher, in your Bible app, you know what I mean? Like closing your eyes in the car and asking him to journey with you.
But not while you're driving, though.
No, well, come on. Listen, we ain't gonna rely on a miracle from Jesus to keep us on that road, okay? Let's keep our eyes open while we are driving. That is so good.
But that's what it is to pray without ceasing.
Yes.
It's ongoing communication with him.
That's it.
It's not feeling like you have to be confined to a certain location, but it's throughout the day, you know, as you wake up, that you are constantly having conversation with God, and he's a part of your day, all day.
Always. You know, one of the greatest things that I loved learning about Smith Wigglesworth, an interviewer asked him, hey, how long do you pray? Expecting him to say 8 hours a day. You know, he's seeing the dead raised and everything else. And Smith said, I don't pray for longer than 20 minutes, and I don't go longer than 20 minutes without praying. That's that prayer without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. And it changes everything. And I thought something that was really powerful that you said, Pastor Dionne, you said you found yourself overwhelmed. And when you did, when you found rest, it restored you. Ain't that crazy?
It looked.
Indeed. So I went through, you know, Angela, I went through a season where I was just wrestling with anxiety, like crazy, consistent anxiety, to the point where, there was a point where I could not even write my sermons on the computer because my hands were shaking so much, just because of overwhelming anxiety.
Of course.
Right, but part of what the Lord was pushing me to was away from the accomplishing of tasks, back to the sitting at his feet, right? And to the consistency of that, where then he began to settle me in a way that I couldn't get by trying to do it on my own. Right, and so this is part of where, you know, again, we are in the midst of a generation that is inundated with, you know, social media, inundated with technology, all the things, right? And so unless we and they learn how to sit at his feet, we're in for a great danger.
Listen, y'all, I hope y'all are listening to this, because it is that simple. It is, we're inundated with social media, we're inundated with meetings, we've got all the things that we need to do. But if we don't sit at his feet, it's for naught. You'll find yourself being anxious. Everything in, through, and by the Spirit of the living God. We thank God for our own pastors. We thank God for Pastors Dionne and Pastors Brian of Macedonia Church of Pittsburgh. And we thank God for you, that today you will choose to sit at his feet before you do anything else.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.